Hey, what's up, CAUSENETIC family? CAUSENETIC means being a personal theme that gives rise to a phenomenon that is dynamic or energizing.
We're tackling the topics and telling the truth.
And I'm keeping son. And today, our topic is wonderfully made. God has made me in his own image.
Here we go.
I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
That's really not even what it's about today.
It's not. Oh, watch and see. Watch and see that it's all about you. No. You meaning you in the mirror, you. Because we have Jessica Gomez, Psych D.
Dr. Jessica Gomez.
Yes.
Come on and get it all the way correct.
Well, somebody out there knew what Psych D meant.
Everyone knew what PsyD meant except you, Pete. Let's go ahead and put this.
What is it, PsyD?
PsyD.
PsyD.
Yes. Exactly.
PsyD. Like Sade.
What it means is Dr. Jessica Gomez.
He is the executive director of Momentous Institute. Dr. Gomez, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes.
I'm sorry. We're going to strip this down because we're on a CAUSENETIC podcast. And it's Jess.
Okay.
Right?
I can live with that. Both are my name.
Okay.
And my cheeks already hurt. Y'all.
We're intrigued for exciting conversation today.
Yeah.
Like mental health is what we're talking about today. When we talk about wonderfully made, some people just don't see themselves in that light of being wonderfully made. Like how do we get to this place helping people to feel more whole?
First, let me start by saying thank you by hosting this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we start, by having conversations that aren't, scary, that you only have certain places, but for us to really talk about what is mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
Inviting it with our friends, with our work circles, with our children. I grew up, and curious to hear from you all, like we don't talk about that. In fact, you keep that in the family.
Right. Yes.
And so we have an opportunity here post-COVID to shine the light and not let it stray.
Absolutely. And this whole idea of even if someone doesn't present like you, they don't learn like you, they don't move through life the way you do, it doesn't mean that they aren't wonderfully made too. Like there is just so much richness in the differences. And I think that's where, at least for me, my lived experience got caught up where we didn't talk about mental health because people just didn't know how to process that. I have this family member, this spouse, this child, this whomever that is so different than me, that learns different from me. Is it something I did, something I didn't do? So let's just not talk about it. Let's just pretend it's not there.
Well,
right?
let's start with the place, because a lot of people think mental health is on this whole extreme. But help define mental health for people.
Sure. I like to simplify it by saying it's a couple things, three things really. My relationship to myself, my relationship to others, and subsequently my relationship to the world. So how am I with me? Mind, body, and spirit. We like to dichotomize physical from your emotions and all of that. Yeah. But how am I? Keith and I were chatting about what are the messages I say when I look at myself in the mirror? Like, am I saying, ooh, is it critical? All of that affects me. And guess what? It's going to affect Keith if I woke up this morning and said, oh, I'm just not looking my best. And then I bring that energy around others and in the world. Yeah. So that's mental health. Like,
Keith, you don't go in the mirror and say you're not looking your best, do you?
I'm like, yo, boy, I see you right there, boy. I see you seeing me, that I see you. Yeah,
and we saw each other.
Yes,
that's what I.
And then you lean back and go,
hey. I mean,
I can hear that.
I think you got to put it in your spirit, though.
I always tell when you have that conversation with yourself too. Like,
you know when I have it though?
Dude, he has to tell you when he first gets a haircut. So he gets a haircut and goes straight to Walmart, and he stays in Walmart until someone says, hey, that's a sharp haircut. He's not buying anything from Walmart. He doesn't need anything from Walmart.
I noticed this thing.
He's trolling.
I would notice somehow or another I end up at Walmart after I get my haircut, but I would notice that somebody just walk by and say, hair looks nice.
Then you're done.
Yeah, and then I got a complex now. And it's like, oh, hey, I'm in Walmart. Anybody tell me my hair look good?
Nobody told me my hair looks nice. Like, man, you don't go home and run the rest of your errands.
But see, you've proven my theory that if you're good with you, then you're good with everyone else. And now you've created a great culture at Walmart. Because you got a good hair.
Don't tell.
I've changed culture.
I knew
I was something. I was something.
great, Keith. That's so excellent. So tell us about your role at the Momentous Institute, which I absolutely love. I think it is an amazing, amazing place. We've had the opportunity to partner with you all over the years in our early childhood education programs, because there are some babies who come to us that we recognize they need a different environment. They need an environment where the people are specifically and intentionally focused on learning and doing things this kind of way. And at the end of the day, we just want kids to be educated, whether they come to us or they go somewhere else. We just want them to get educated. And so you all do amazing stuff at the Momentous Institute.
And I'm a little biased, right? Because I think the same thing too. And I want to share too what we do and then how I ended up being the lucky person.
Yeah.
So Momentous Institute, Dallas-based organization, more than 100-year history. Let's just take a minute to say 100
years
in the game.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's huge.
And our focus is mental health and education, because where do kids spend most of their time? Right. We know
In
this.
school.
Right. And so we focus on that for the past 100 years. We do it through our mental health programming. So we offer all types of counseling. We do it through our elementary school, and we're weaving in what we've learned in the past 100 years that works in mental health and saying, what would happen if you weave it into school programming?
Yeah.
And then we're rippling by saying now through all our training, what would happen if you put it anywhere where a child lives? So our mission really is focused on how do we set kiddos up for the best outcomes in their lives?
Yeah.
So that's really what it is.
That's good stuff.
And my job is really to love on and cheer on the people that do the work in the trenches every day.
Yeah.
So I'm a psychologist by training, and I say, in the trenches for over a decade at Momentous by being one of the clinicians and then leading a team of clinicians.
Okay.
And then the opportunity to take the big leap came up, and here I am 14 months later. No one's counting though.
Not day by day
Not
or
day by
anything
day.
like that.
A beautiful mission, and we get to work with children from across all DFW and now since with training all over the world.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of training, so you guys have a great curriculum, change makers. Tell us a little bit about that and how do you guys implement that, and are you guys training up other people outside of your organization to utilize it also?
So let me tell you about change makers. It's an elementary school curriculum that focuses on how do you integrate social emotional health concepts, mental health. There's all these types of words, right? Basically, how do kids pay attention to their emotions into education?
Yeah.
And it's really, so it's CASEL accredited. So it is the only one of its kind that's accredited and uses trauma-informed lens neurobiology, because what happens if you teach kids about their brains in kindergarten?
Right.
Imagine if I had learned that.
Right.
I don't know about you, but if I knew about my
know some
emotions in my
adults that
brain,
could probably take that course. Right. Well, I don't really even like the way you are looking at me across the table right now. I don't really know what you're trying to say, but don't say it.
You could have got a hold of that early on. Imagine.
I don't
You
even
could be
know.
greater than what you are right
I
now.
don't even know what you're talking about.
we could all.
Okay, thank you.
Let me say the difference in this curriculum is everyone looks at social emotional health or mental well-being or mental health, right? All interchangeable as, let me pick it off the shelf and do it for 5 minutes at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Our curriculum is different because what it's focused on is the adults. And it is a way of being. And if you don't start with the adults and their posture, guess what? It impacts everyone, especially the children in the classroom.
Yeah.
We had the opportunity to be a hub for WISE across the country, utilizing character development, so social emotional learning. And that was our focus as well, is that how do we create a better adult to work with the young people?
Yeah.
I mean, and for years we know, hey child, let us pour in and fix you. Like, let's put the mirror up to ourselves. Like,
Start there.
hello, adult. How are you first and
You
foremost? Like, how do you show up in this space right here?
Yeah.
You know, are you taking care of yourself? Are you bringing it back out on these kids? Like let's deal with self first versus before we can get over there. Yeah.
Because kids are very perceptive. Like, it never ceases to amaze me how kids will come and just read you completely. And you'll be like, go learn some ABCs right now, just telling me my
Right.
whole a 4-year-old came up to me and I was on the phone. It must have been all in my face. I'm trying to multitask and talk to the kids, but I'm on my phone answering emails. And she told me, you know why you depressed? Because you need games on your phone. I said, first of all,
You
are you gonna send me a bill for that diagnosis? Because it's
Right.
okay. But I was like, dang, that 4-year-old just quick fast running past me in the gym. Just summed it up. That
You know
quickly,
why? It's
right?
'cause children operate off of their gut instincts.
Yes.
They're not, they don't overthink things. And some kiddos are sponges. And
Yeah.
before you even say it, if you think it or you have a vibe, like I like to
They
say,
get it.
Right.
they're picking
Right.
up on it.
They
Now,
get
we
it.
forget that as adults.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
And we want to call the kid being smart.
Right.
You know,
Like,
you
well,
look
they
smart,
were,
had it, you know.
they were
Yeah, well,
smart because that
very
was
smart. Because tell them the truth. It's like, man, if we could just live like childlike sometimes as an adult. Like,
I mean, let's talk
really-
about naps,
Yeah.
right? Naps
Oh,
go away when we need them the most.
man, I
Hello?
need
But
man,
playtime.
when I see a little kid fighting a nap, I'll be like, you just don't know. Oh man.
But we
Ugh.
forget those things, and that's what keeps us mentally well or healthy,
Yeah.
right? Playing, getting outside, playing. It's all
Yeah.
those elementary things, right?
the
It's
simple
not that
things
hard.
in life.
It's not that hard.
really not.
It's not
But
that
we
hard.
pack so much stuff up into here. We done learned so much, and like we need to unlearn.
Well, my grandmother used to say something that stuck with me. My mom would like to get us all dressed up, right? And you got to stay clean like that all day.
All
And my
day.
grandmother would say, you need to let those kids get dirty and play in dirt.
Just let them be
And
kids.
think about that wisdom, though.
Yeah.
There's something when you are connected to nature that keeps your brain regulated and keeps you mentally well.
Right.
But there's some wisdom there. And I don't know that my grandmother knew the neuroscience behind that.
Right.
But you actually have to be like, you should walk around barefoot every now and then in your
Huh.
grass. I know you're looking at me like, huh.
I'm like, huh.
But it keeps you anchored and it's good for your gut, which is your second brain.
So.
You keep yours covered up if you. There's been a couple of times, you've unleashed that to the world, and
He's
that-
so jealous.
that
I
backside
don't
of
even
it.
really know how to
Something
get past
here.
it. I'm just being great, and he's so jealous.
You keep blowing.
keep going. So what can schools do? I mean, so we have our podcast, a lot of different people who listen that work with kids kind of in this out of school time space, but also in the education space also. What is it that schools can do? Like if you had the magic wand to say like schools do this, what would that
Be
be?
a pretty big magic wand. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
And if I could wave it, where would I start? A couple levels. Start with the adults. I talk about the cup and saucer. Pay attention to the adults in that room. How are we treating our educators? There's a lot out there. Are we respecting them?
Yeah.
As a society? Are we taking care of them? We recognize that children aren't coming back into the classroom.
Yeah.
They're just with I'm here to learn. They got a lot of baggage.
They bring a
sometimes.
lot of stuff with them. That is very true.
Are we
you
supporting?
can't, right? And you can't realistically ask people to just compartmentalize. Like you get whole human
Just
beings.
focus on the mat
Just
today.
only do this today, but like I'm hungry, or I was scared yesterday, or I have seen way too much more than a 7-year-old should see,
Or my dad passed away last night, or there was a
taking
fight.
care of my siblings. Well, that's okay because you need to get the quadratic equation right now. Like
Now they're gonna get the quadratic equation right if you tend to that.
right.
We talk about
Right.
connect before you redirect,
Yeah.
and so, but our teachers, they've got enough on their plate already. So then to ask them to do all this, so what are the proper supports in the school? Who does the teacher go to if they're saying something's going on with Jessica in the classroom today, right? Does the counselor have enough capacity? And even if we identify kiddos in a school system have anxiety or depression, is there anywhere to send them?
Right.
Is there a clinician that looks like them, speaks their language that they feel comfortable with?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
diversity even within the field.
Yeah.
I could go
And then
on.
helping
That
parents
part on the
understand.
diversity part.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so you got a culture that says like, hey, you keep this in the house, you don't take this outside. So the kid already comes to school now all bound up.
Yeah.
And then if he or she does want to talk to somebody, don't have anybody that looks like them.
Right. Right. And doesn't understand their lived experiences. And or even talking with parents when having supervised staff who work in that early childhood area. And when we're with those babies all day, we notice that something may be different about the way that child learns or how they interact. Like we come across so many children that they get overstimulated, and the only way for them to just kind of release all that is to just scream and cry and whatever. And we had to help recalibrate teachers because they just thought the child was being defiant. And that wasn't it. It's just a baby. It was too much. And maybe our classroom was too big, and maybe it was too busy, and but when you talk to parents about stuff like that, helping them understand it's not an indictment against you as a parent or your child. It's just that they learn differently, and this may not be the environment for them. They may be more tactile learners, and a lot of the stuff we do is auditory, right? And so just really helping parents understand. And I know it can be a shocker, but just take a minute and breathe through it and start thinking about what's in the best interest of your child. Make sure they don't get labeled, pushed through the system, like on the
scary too. Like if you put a
yes,
diagnosis
on a child. And then put them in the best environment.
Because some parents also know that when they put that diagnosis on that child in school, like, all right, that's a whole nother path.
It's a whole path, and it follows.
And it's like, I don't want to put, I would say early on when we saw something in one of our children, and we thought like Maven, and I was like, oh, because I know once you put that label on that black boy,
yeah,
that's a whole different thing there.
You know the research and what the research says out there of outcomes, right? And so we know that children of color are often more diagnosed with externalizing behavior. So they're more likely to get an ADHD, oppositional defiant, a behavioral versus, gosh, they might need a little bit more playtime, a little bit more exercising. Like, have we tried everything? Or they might be depressed, or they might have a lot of stress in the home. So we know that. But on top of that, what I want to say is at Momentous, one of the things we do is we tell the parents, you're the expert in your child.
Right. Yes.
I have an expertise in psychology, and you and I are going to work together because you know your child better than everyone.
Yeah.
So we're inviting them to be part of let's figure out what works for your child and what doesn't. And so I think we need to look at children as more than a diagnosis.
Yes.
They're whole beings. I love when you said
this.
And so how do we look at therapy doesn't have to happen with a clinician or a psychologist.
Right.
It might be, you know what? And I've prescribed this to families often. I want you once a week to have a time where you just spend going to the park. You know, some families don't have the resources to go out to eat. So maybe it's just having a picnic and playing or doing taekwondo with your child. And that can sometimes be better than the diagnosis.
That's good. That's good stuff. I love that.
I'm taking all this. This is fire.
I love that. I love that.
So so summertime comes for us. We hire all these college students, freshmen, sophomores, that they have to work with, someone 5 to 12. The child has been taking its meds while they're in school. The parents say that summertime we're going to take them off the meds. What do you say to parents that may not, because they don't tell us that they take them off the meds, and so they get into our program and they're doing their thing.
Sensory overload, excitement, I'm seeing all my buddies and I'm having fun.
Right. So like, what do you say to the parents in terms of they have their child in a program, say such as after school or summer camp? How do you tell the parents, hey, look, they work with the organization, just trying to care for your child?
So first of all, I start by asking what is going to help your child excel the most in whatever environment they're on. To switch someone off of something that helps their brain function in a certain way, let's take a child-centered view. What's that experience going to be like for your child, let alone the adults in the room? When it comes to ADHD, and I won't take credit for this, I heard it from a psychiatrist that I went to a training, and he said, that brain, that ADHD brain, the child with that, it's like a Ferrari. Its capabilities for creativity, for engagement. Like, we only look at the deficits part of it. If you put that in gravel, how's that Ferrari going to drive? Right. It's not going to do what it's supposed to, right? But if you put that on a nice open tollway with no traffic on it, you're going to hear rip. So I like that metaphor because we have to set up the conditions for a child to excel, right? Versus fit you in here. So I start by what's going to be the best experience for your child. Right. It's an oversimplification, right?
I like this.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Like
But
to
looking
just,
at it as a strength,
as a
right?
strength, like this is that. And once again, I think, like you said earlier, it goes back to the stigma. I mean, for some families, let's be realistic. It comes to a dollars and cents kind of thing, right? And so they have to take that break during the summertime, right? Where they feel like maybe the outcomes may not be as punitive and kids won't get kicked out of school or suspended because they may be trying to save money or there's something going on. But I do think there is also a little bit of that stigma involved. Like they just want their child to get up and go and bound around like they perceive other children do. And it's just your baby learns differently. It's no different than when you make a salad and this baby will not eat tomatoes and this baby loves tomatoes.
But then
right?
that baby's gonna go in here, and if they're trying to relate to you and play with you,
Yeah.
but then they're so overexcited that they become aggressive, is
Yes.
that the experience they're gonna get?
Exactly.
You know, or they're not
Exactly.
relating to the adult in the room because, you know, they're overwhelmed. So I think it's
Yes.
having open communication.
Open community, or they feel so scattered, they just can't settle in on something. And yeah, it's
So what
that
do we
is
do
good
for
to
the
think
staff?
about it for
then?
their
So like, again, ideal in the summertime, what it looks like is probably a freshman, sophomore, if they stay with maybe a junior that is working with these young people and their career is around business or marketing.
Yeah.
And nowhere near
Yeah.
it says that work with a child who has
Mhm,
ADHD.
What do you tell? I'm going to oversimplify this. At the end of the day, it's all about relationships.
Mhm,
And so if you have a connection as much as you can, because I know they're getting big groups of children, right? But if they start to form connection, not just with the child, but with the parents and the caregivers,
yeah,
I think that when you hit those bumps in the road,
Yep.
we can give each other grace and space to say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing this.
I agree.
And then, so relationship, teaching them how to be curious about what they're seeing in the room. And is there an adult within their system? Because they're just coming in maybe for the summer
Yeah,
that they can go and talk to about, I'm noticing this, and that they get the proper supports, right?
yeah,
We're
yeah.
talking about this with teachers earlier, right? So teachers have the right supports to know who to go to understand the behavior. And I say curiosity. Always chase the why behind why
Yeah,
someone acts
yeah.
a certain way. Don't
Yeah.
make an assumption.
Right.
Right.
And
All
that's
behavior is
yeah, I
communication.
hear that a lot. Like if you know it's been 193 degrees for 57 days straight, kids won't act right. Heck, sometimes you may be dealing with some adult ADHD, right?
Right.
And a child would do something that is very much in line with what a child would do, and some of the adults get personally affronted. Like that kid, like the baby didn't do anything to you. They were
So they're
just
hot, right? Or they're hungry.
You
or they're
have
tired.
I feel the same 157 degrees.
No,
he
they're
feels.
trying to do it. You mad at 8-year-old? How happy that is. And I always used to try to tell my folks, like, you could not like what the kid did, but you always gotta love the kid because babies can tell the difference. They know when you don't like what they did, but you still love them.
So
So if they can't tell between that, that's where you go.
But
That's
that's
where
a
you gonna
great
get.
point
Yeah.
there of helping these youth that are coming into the programs, right? Even if it's for the summer, this isn't their lifelong career. I always tell people, you are the instrument, right?
Yeah.
And so children are going to pick up on that. We all know this. We
Yeah.
call it
They pick up
vibes
on
or
it.
energy.
Yes, they
Oh,
do.
children are experts in this.
They do. They pick up
Mm.
on that. They sure will. That's why babies love me. They just make my vibe.
This is this part.
You see how I lean back, right?
The awkward silence is going on, so I'm gonna reserve what I was gonna speak out. And so pretty amazing what you do.
Yes.
Just this conversation alone is just helping me. I'm just like running thoughts through my mind right now, and I appreciate that. So many people who are listening to this, we're thinking about talking about mental health more and more since the pandemic. And so a lot of this is coming out.
That's the silver lining, right? Like it was a terrible thing, but I'm kind of glad it happened.
Right. I mean, people are expressing themselves in so many different ways, and then they're coming out. Like, what do you say still to the person who maybe hasn't acknowledged that within themselves that something may be going on? Because I'm not like all the way over here, but I feel something. What do
None
they
of
need to
us
do about it?
is exempt from the human experience.
Oh, that's good.
Mental health sadness, depression.
That's
It
good.
exists on a spectrum, right? And so some people, yes, have significant suffering where they can't work or they can't get out of bed. And then there's those of us that have small episodes, you know, and so it's all part of the human condition. And so for the person out there that's like, well, I'm not that bad, right? Mental health is something that every human that's born on this earth, you know, has to face at some point. And there are seasons to it. And I like to tell a lot of my clients, it comes in waves. And so some of those waves, maybe of depression or anxiety, you notice kind of wash up on your toes. And some of those waves knock you back. And so knowing that it's okay, you don't have to be at the extreme of not functioning to seek help. Right. And again, therapy looks different for all of us. To me, sometimes it's going for a walk at the lake. And for me, sometimes it's going to my therapy appointment with my therapist to talk through.
That is so true. Like, and I think as people, we understand that concept, right? Like, if you go and you fractured your arm, you're not going to wait for it to all the way break to go get the cast. We're like, no, this little fracture is enough. I'm going to go get some help.
But we like to see mental health that way.
We need to see it that way.
I talk about it like you take your car in for tune-ups all the time, right?
Absolutely.
You don't wait 10 years.
You don't wait like till like.
But we like to see
our body and our mind just that much more important than the car.
Well, and research has shown over and over that people, especially people from diverse backgrounds, communities of color, are more likely to go to an ER visit or to the primary care physician and say, my back hurts or my stomach hurts, when really that's the anxiety or depression starting to manifest in bodily symptoms.
And then they probably get prescribed something that perhaps don't even have the deeper conversation. And now you taking all this medication you don't really have to take, perhaps. And
my go-to right now is yoga. And so and I'm not like deep into yoga, but I know when I hit a stress point and I just feel it like man, I get up in the morning and I do yoga, and it's just like it's like this morning, like I was feeling some kind of way when I got up. I ain't really want to go see my personal trainer. So
that's what way you was feeling. Come on, tell the truth. I'm gonna tell David. I'm gonna tell it.
He worked me a little hard, right? But I needed to relax. And so, man, I mean, like even right now, I'm just feeling that much better, just because that's like my go-to now. It's like, let me get here and do some relaxation. And I just love the one that just stay the lady. I'm like, you know, that I started to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Emails and
no. I'm talking about just relax.
Oh,
I went to sleep. And then I had to wake myself up.
I don't really think that.
See, I love that. It's how do we all get to the point where we realize before you end up in the therapy appointment, if that's not what you need, we've got to nurture and take care of our mind, body, and spirit. It's like
all day,
you can't just take care of the body. You got to take care of it. So what am I eating? What am I listening to? Right? Who do I have in my life? Because that contributes to my mental health.
Absolutely.
So you've got to do an assessment.
You hear that, Keith? Negative people.
Sometimes you got to flush some people out of your life.
Now, me with all that blinking, because I'm unflushable, okay?
Yes, you are.
You walked into that one.
I think, there was a moment that what hit me was listening to Michelle Obama's podcast one day. And she said she had a low-grade depression. And man, if that thing hasn't stuck with me, like, I think I may have went through some of these moments like that.
Right. Yeah. You had low grade.
You're not exempt.
Yeah. Right. And you just thought, let me push through. Let me be stronger.
Right.
I gotta toughen up. Let me dig in. Yeah. Like,
gotta deal with it.
We can break some of that generational, right? Cultural advice. Like, I definitely want to be a resilient kind of person, but I also want to be like, excuse me, need a little assistance, please.
Right.
And both are fine.
Well, and knowing what to do with it. No one talks to us. So imagine if we were taught since we were in elementary school that when I'm feeling a low-grade depression, maybe that means I got to eat a little bit more vegetables or do a little bit of yoga or go out on a date with a friend or go to church, whatever it may be, that those are the things that keep you from getting all the way to deep depression.
Right. So you say vegetable, not Oreo.
Why you telling my business on this podcast?
I'm just asking.
You had to bring up Oreos. I was thinking about them too.
And you ought to go get the Napoleon
I thought you were gonna bring them to me.
with the waffle. You must.
I have a thing for, I have a thing like, I will tell state secrets. If the FBI really wanted to ever know anything, they just bring me Oreos. I have a thing for Oreos. I
keep this in back.
Man,
here.
when things is good, I eat Oreos. When things are bad, I eat Oreos. When things are just things, I eat Oreos. I
You can't go
love
wrong with
Oreos.
Napoleon.
And I eat Oreos in flavors that I don't eat that food. Like I don't eat cinnamon buns, but I would eat cinnamon bun Oreos. I hate carrot cake, but I would eat carrot cake Oreos. Like,
So we're gonna deal with.
you're just gonna buy me those Napoleon Oreos and we're gonna move
They're
on.
limited edition too. So yeah.
Napoleon, and they always come
Check
out
this
with
out.
these flavors that last for a short amount of time.
Like
that
the
are
pumpkin ones are all right now.
Huh?
Pumpkin the house.
Try those. I'm not a pumpkin person, but I might try them. I mean,
It's an Oreo.
it's an
the end
Oreo,
of the day.
and I like them all.
And as you indulge in your Oreos,
I do.
just know that you are wonderfully made.
I love me and the Oreos.
Hey, look, CAUSENETIC family, thank you guys for listening to us.
For being here with us, for sharing with us. We are super excited about what you're going to bring to the stage during our key leaders event.
Yes.
In a little bit, she's going to be on a panel up there on stage with some esteemed folks, really dropping knowledge, talking about
Dressed to the
mental
nine
health.
too.
I'm ready. I'm waiting.
You
for
set
it
the bar
all.
pretty high now.
I'm waiting for it all. I'm so excited. Thank you
you
for
both.
joining us, Dr. Jessica. And Keith, you should have brought me some Oreos, but it's fine.
Wow, open the bag.
You bought the Oreos and ate them?
And look, when you hit the strawberry flavor,
Oh
then,
my
my
God.
goodness. it's
Wait,
so
did you
good.
go to the trainer too, or no?
No, he didn't go to
Hey,
the trainer.
hey, Doc,
Thank
hey,
you,
Doc,
Jessica.
hey,
I
Doc,
feel so
Doc,
clean.
you-
I'm just gonna get the timeline right.
Did trainer bought Oreos for me, but then ate them himself.
He needed that today.
Wow.
halfway through.
Oh.
Oh, down. Oh, hey, look, thank you guys for listening to CAUSENETIC.
So wonderfully made, featuring none other than Dr. Jessica Gomez.
Yes, and subscribe to and listen to us weekly.
And don't be shy, give us a 5-star review.
And it's always
Dynamic
phenomenal.
CAUSENETIC.